Hey, everybody, welcome to Away Games, a Chicago Cubs podcast. My name is Kevin McCaffrey, and I'm here with your good friend, Adam Mamawala. How are you, Adam?
I'm doing quite well. How are you?
Boo! Just kidding. I'm not. I don't boo because I'm a grown-up. I'm a grown-up, so I don't boo people who are my allies. That's one of the things that I don't do in my life.
I am neither a child nor a ghost. I do not boo.
Yes, exactly. It would be terrible if you were both. That would be the worst kind of ghost, child ghosts. Yeah, follow us, by the way, on Twitter and Instagram at Away Games Pod, where we are constantly tweeting still through this Cubs baseball season, and we're putting up some things on Instagram, some videos, some pics every now and again, some videos from this very thing that you're listening to. But yeah, man, I think this week in baseball and Cubs baseball has been fairly representative of what this season is, because it feels like the big Cubs news was not at all anything Cubs happening.
No, it was not, other than David Bote, Henry Rowan Gartnering himself, which
Good
is
call.
maybe the most 2021 Cubs thing that could possibly happen.
I did appreciate, I think it was Brett Taylor, I think it was the Bleacher Nation folks who got on this and sort of Zapruder filmed it and looked at how the ball, it literally rolled right onto white text that was painted into the grass. So that's why Bote couldn't see it. And he stepped on the ball, rolled his ankle, and was probably just out for the year, it seems like, which really
Why
sucks.
is there always grass involved in these grainy in this grainy footage?
It's a grassy knoll situation. It really was. It's too bad he was sniped and he's out for the year. It just, man, it's just a completely snake bitten year for David Bote. He ripped the ball, absolutely destroyed the ball in spring training, got the starting nod. It's a million years ago, but it was David Bote got the starting nod over Nico Horner at second base. Do you guys remember when those guys played baseball? And Bote, it seemed like, was going to really get a chance to run with it, and then was hitting into some tough luck early, but the results also weren't there. And then as soon as, I think, like, Nico and he got injured simultaneously.
Right. Yeah, it was like the same weekend.
Right.
And yeah, he didn't. Not only did he not get a chance to run with it, he didn't even get a chance to run. He literally got injured running.
He didn't get a chance to slide with it. He's a little slid and his arm came off, and then injured now. So that sucks for David Bote, who's sort of like, I think, one of the forgotten names we think about when it's like who might actually be on this Cubs team going forward. He is under contract. He's one of those guys who signed an extension early. So.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I could imagine that would have been even more like this year Cubs would be that happening to Patrick Wisdom, where it's like the one thing that is so great right now being taken from us. But before we get into some Javy Baez stuff and some Cubs stuff, we do have something kind of exciting to tease. Do you want to tell the people who we spoke to the other day?
Sure. So as you guys know, occasionally we'll talk to a Cubs player, either at the major league level or a prospect coming up, and a guy.
We've been known to DM slide. Slide.
We'll do it. If you see Away Games jumping in your DMs, you just might get some free airtime coming up. And we talked to a very exciting Cubs relief pitcher prospect, Ethan Roberts, who you can go look him up. Go Google Ethan Roberts Cubs right now. Check out his stats, and I think you'll be pretty excited about it. He is a relief pitcher who I appreciate. This is a little teaser of what he tells us. He told us his real height, which is different from his listed height, which wouldn't be a weird thing, except for there is a bias against non like 6'5" pitchers. So I think he's listed at 5'11". He said he was 5'9". So he's sort of a shorter relief pitcher, came out of Tennessee Tech, and has done nothing but pitch great in the Cubs organization. He's gone in just a couple of years all the way up the chain to AAA, and he's on the verge of busting into the major leagues. So we talked to him about sort of his journey and about his he's also just like a really cool guy with fans too. So we got some great stories about him talking to fans too. And he's a great guy, and I think he's going to be a major league Cub soon. And he could be a pretty fun late relief option.
Yeah, likely will be protected this offseason. He's a Rule 5 guy. He actually talked a little bit about like what that means for him and kind of the I guess uncertainty moving forward. But certainly a guy that the Cubs, I think you and I agree, should hold on to. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. The one thing that Cubs development seems like they have done a good job with lately is targeting relief pitchers and developing relievers. And Ethan Roberts is one of the one of the next names to pop from that group, I think. And he was a great hang. So we talked to him for a half hour, and we're going to release that episode in a couple days. So look out for that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a lot of fun. He's a good dude, and I think you guys will dig it. And maybe that's a good place to start. Do we want to mention any of the new faces we've seen in the past week and
Sure.
thoughts on them? Well, I guess Scotty Efros is up, friend of not our pod but a different Cubs pod, the Compound. No free ads.
Mm-hmm.
So Scott Efros is up. Rivas is up. Am I missing anyone?
Rivas came up. He's playing. He played first base last night, and he's also been playing some left field. He's sort of a. I mean, in Cubs terms, you'd think of Rivas as a Mark Grace type, just in that plus defense, high contact and on base ability, more doubles power than home run power is what you're looking at from Rivas. So yeah, he came up, and I think those are. I mean, Hermosillo came up about a week and a half ago at this point, but there's so many Cubs that are like sort of new, right? And
Right.
and it, like you said, Scott Efros, who comes at you from like a weird angle, a weird side arming angle. He's a guy who hit a block in his development at some point. The results weren't there, and then he changed his game up, and it's brought him all the way to the majors. And he seems like a guy who other teammates particularly enjoy and are happy for. So that's a fun guy to look for.
Yeah, and I mean, there definitely were some nerves there. It reminded me a little bit of when we saw Marquez last year, actually, also at the same stadium against the White Sox. But yeah, Efros has some real. I don't know if it's the arm angle or what it is, but he's got some real nice like late movement on that fastball. Like that first career strikeout looked pretty unhittable. So excited to see him up. Rivas, when you say he's a Mark Grace type, do you mean baseball wise or also in terms of his activities off the field?
I would not. I know nothing of Rivas socially slump busting.
Does
So
he have an
I
ex-wife who's a dingbat?
I don't I feel fairly confident saying no, he does not. So I think not Mark Gracie in that way. And yeah, I just on field you can dream on him as being maybe a poor man's on field Mark Grace and probably an off field rich man's Mark Grace. So except for the
Hey, the
money part.
decade just began. Maybe he can lead the major leagues in hits this decade,
Yeah.
much like Mark Rice did in the 90s.
I really do think, and I made this comparison on Twitter at Away Games Pod, but I think we are probably both in the camp of wanting the Cubs to sign Anthony Rizzo back and to right that wrong. And I don't expect that they will. I won't believe that they would until they do. But if you're looking at the options we have at first base, and you're talking Frank the Tank Schwindel and Rivas. I think it's a real throwback to the Eric Karros Randall Simon combo. It's actually a fairly the types of players from the right and left sides of the plate are pretty similar this way to those guys. So that's what we're gonna say is the first base situation at this moment. Sort of a Karros Simon deal.
Yeah. Did we? Am I missing anyone? Is there anyone else we've seen over the past week that we've gotten more looks at? I mean, obviously, Cody Hoyer has gotten some more looks.
Cody Hoyer, the
Manrod a bit.
Right. Cody Hoyer, who came over in the White Sox deal for Kimbrel. It's been interesting to see how they've been using him. They've been using him in more of a 2-inning role, which is new. So it's interesting to see that. And he has closed out games, but he's also been deployed earlier. So I don't know if that could just be getting him innings when you can here at the end of the year to get a look at him. But it also could be a peek into what they're thinking about him and his role going forward, being sort of like a fireman guy to come in and whenever the high leverage is needed in the middle of the game and give you some length there. I'm looking at the active roster. I did see Rex Brothers the other day, and I had completely forgotten he existed. No shade. Just I saw Rex Brothers and was like, wow, he's here. Michael Rucker's been up a bit, I guess. Right, he's been up and down. Adrian Sampson again is another one. We got the Romine brothers up. We know that. I think that's about it.
We saw Adam Morgan get real fired up last night.
Yes, Adam Morgan got real fired up on a real highlight double play by Matt Duffy. So that was
I mean, it's weird in this stretch of just let's be honest, very depressing Cubs baseball over the past month and a half. There have been these kind of weird games inserted maybe once a week or so that you're like, that was like a crisply played really nice game. Like last night, the
Hmm.
Cubs, we're recording this on Wednesday, beat the Twins 3-1. Now the Twins are not a good team, but
No, they bad.
it was, yeah, they're very bad. It was surprisingly bad. Davies navigated around traffic, which is kind of what Davies will do.
Hmm.
I guess there were what, 3 or 4 double plays highlighted by the
Yeah.
the Duffy play.
Kyle,
Um,
excuse me. Zach Davies is sponsored by the Waze app. He is really just really changing routes, weaving in and out of trouble at all times, and getting you there kind of okay sometimes. So
right, yeah. Waze might be too good of a comp. I think Zach Davies is sponsored by MapQuest. It's
Yahoo Maps, MapQuest,
just
yeah.
like this doesn't work anymore, and no one should use it. That's basically.
Right. I mean, it'll get you somewhere for sure.
But if you miss one turn, you're in a completely different place that you don't want to
Yeah, my man, MapQuest Davies.
be. But it's interesting because this is the first September since 2014 that we don't really have much to care about or pay attention to as Cubs fans. And it's throwing me off. Like I'm realizing that so much of my life in the past half a decade plus has like the passage of time has been experienced through the Cubs. And I feel like my calendar is off personally because I'm just like not super keyed into everything that the Cubs are doing every moment of every day in September.
Hmm.
But what's interesting about it is that, for us as fans, this feels like a very not important time. And yet for guys who are getting called up, like this is the most important time. And it's kind of cool to see how fired up people are getting on a team that is not going anywhere and doesn't necessarily have much to play for. But individually, these guys have a lot to play for. And even a guy like Ian Happ, who that is for sure the longest right-handed home run he's ever hit by a long shot.
Third deck in
Like
Minnesota.
that's like that's Nelson Cruz territory.
Yeah, I didn't see the official numbers on it, but you got to really put a charge into it to get it up into that third deck. And like you said, right-handed. That's not usually where the bulk of Ian Happ's power comes from. So I don't know if that got him quite over the Mendoza line again. He had popped over to, we were on Ian Happ Mendoza watch. He had popped up to 205 a couple days ago, then was back down to 198 before that.
Right.
But
we had
yeah,
talked about him getting back to 200 and over 200, getting 20 home runs, which seems very much like almost a certainty at this point. I think he's got 17. Had that big game tying home run off of our buddy Daniel Bard, who we saw a couple weeks ago in Colorado. And that's got to feel good for him. I mean, he's really labored through most of this season. So nice to see some nice things happening for Hap. Patty Wiz hitting 4 home runs in 2 days, just absolutely crushing the baseball. Like I'm very interested to see what his career is moving forward. If he's a guy that like the league will figure out at some point, but I mean, he looks pretty legitimate to me.
I mean, he's got what 25, 26 home runs right now, and he's done that in about 250 at bats. So you're talking about you can get silly when you start saying on pace for, but that's a half a season roughly. This is a 50 home run pace. The pace we're seeing him hit home runs at is genuinely, it's a 50 plus home run pace in a full season. And it seems like the raw power is real, and he is translating it to game power right now. And he also runs the bases pretty well. He's got a heck of an arm, a great mustache, obviously. But he seems to be a guy who, again, signing Chris Bryant to a long-term deal, if you're a big market team that wants to contend, is the move to do. But they're not going to do that. And Wisdom at third, I think now isn't, that can be fine. I think this is like an interesting thing. He's done everything he could do this year to show that he deserves a regular spot in the lineup.
I would be all for like a Bote deal. Like if you remember, Bote actually approached the Cubs and was like, "Hey, like I would love some stability. Can we lock in?" I think it was like 5 years, 15 million or something like that. I would love that. And I mean, Patrick Wisdom is a guy who just turned 30. Hit a couple dingers on his 30th birthday, I believe. But like, I am sure for him and his family, like he would like to know that he is locked in for a bit, and I would be totally in favor of that.
Well, and if you would like to know Patrick Wisdom's contract details, I will tell you right now. So he's basically making the minimum salary right now. He's making a base salary of $570,500. But the more important thing is he's under team control for the next 2 years, where the Cubs just get to tender him a contract. Boom, you're done. Then he is arbitration eligible in 2024. and then it's 3 years of arbitration. So Patrick Wisdom is under team control through 2026, and he is 30 years old now, as we said. So I mean, that's the prime of the rest of his career. He's under team control right now, and that's not nothing. That having him under team control that way is potentially exciting for this Cubs team. This is relatively at a relatively low cost. If what we're seeing this year is real, they get to just plug him into that lineup for a while.
Now, would that imply that there's not really an opportunity for him to renegotiate, or would that just mean that the Cubs have more control in a scenario where he says like, hey, let's lock something in for X amount per year?
He could renegotiate. Basically, the incentive there would be, I mean, I don't think, since he's under team control through 2026, I don't think they're going to be signing a contract now that goes beyond that,
Right.
But if you wanted to buy out some of those arbitration years and just lock in a rate, so if both teams wanted to take the variable out there of the, both going to arbitration and pitching their own numbers and seeing which one wins, you could definitely lock it in a way there, basically. But yeah, I think the story is he is locked up until he's under team control until he's 35. If the Cubs want to go through the arbitration process, and they're open to negotiate any other kind of deal they want to. And in terms of arbitration stuff, the one thing is that like Ian Happ is arbitration eligible again this year, and there's been talk about, will the Cubs even tender him a contract, or will they do what they did with Schwarber, where they could have done, he was under team control, could have gone through arbitration there, but will they just straight up non-tender him? And I personally would be mad if they did not tender a contract there.
To Hap?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's certainly playing his way into being tendered a contract if he wasn't going to be before.
Man, it's been a terrible year for Ian Happ, obviously, offensively, but some stuff I'll see on Twitter about people being like, oh, I'm not going to get fooled to buying into Ian Happ again. What other, again, are we fucking talking about here? Like, look at the baseball card. He's been a good player since he came into this league. He went down to the minors for a bit, came back, was good. Ian Happ has been good to the point of 2021. I just don't know what we're talking about when people are like, oh, you're not going to fool me again, Ian Happ.
Well, it's kind of Schwarber-ish, isn't it?
Right.
It's very similar.
Yeah, streaky, but he's been good. This is a bad year. I mean, I don't know. I don't know where the Ian Happ skepticism, like hindsight skepticism going back, really comes from too much. But I think looking at the players on this team, if you're thinking about who can be a starter on a good team, Ian Happ's had a terrible year. He's one of the only guys on this roster who can be a starter on a good team, like who we know has that level of talent. So not keeping him around for not much money, I would say, is unacceptable. But I'd say a lot of things have been unacceptable. So,
yeah, I would agree.
You know what's not unacceptable, Adam?
Trimming your pubes.
Trimming your pubes is not unacceptable. Actually, I would say that it's good to keep yourself groomed in any way you can. And if you want to keep yourself groomed as a dude who also wants to keep us groomed in our podcast and keep us going over here, what you can do is you can go over to Manscaped and use the promo code AWAYGAMES and get 20% off, get free shipping anywhere, and you can get and you can help yourself to some Manscaped products.
I mean, just ask David Bote. It's very important to keep your field clean.
You got to keep the field clean. You don't want an incident.
You don't want an incident.
You don't want to step on a ball. And so you got to see the balls on the field. And the best way that we know how to do that is via Manscaped.
Yes, use the promo code AWAYGAMES, 20% off your entire order and free shipping internationally, wherever your balls may be.
Stay healthy, my friends. Yeah.
To be clear, we are reading directly from the ad copy. None of this was improvised.
No, this is verbatim. This is we're sticking to the script,
Well, where do we go next? We talk about Javy.
Adam, do you want to explain what happened in Queens this week with our good friend Javy Baez?
As a Queens resident, I would be happy to explain that to you. Basically, what is happening is that Mets fans and the owner who traded for him, or oversees the GM who did so, are upset with Javy Baez for being Javi Baez. Here's the thing: when you trade for a guy who strikes out a lot, you don't get to be upset when he strikes out a lot. You got what you traded for. Now, yes, he's had some injuries. He has not been able to play as much as I'm sure they would have liked. Mets fans are understandably frustrated. They came into this year with high hopes, as they always do, and are often disappointed, which you just hate to see.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, Mets fans have been expressing their frustration by booing a lot, by at times chanting "Fire Rojas," which I actually like more than booing, if I'm being
It
honest.
has a point. It's like you're saying words. Use
Right.
your words is something that when I worked
Hmm.
in elementary school special education, this is a thing that you would encourage children to do. Use your words, and I would
Hmm.
encourage human beings to do that too. Like I would encourage adults to just use your words. I don't know how you can
Yeah.
respect yourself as a grown-up who's mad at someone else not doing their job well enough to convey happiness to you not doing your job, and then your reaction is just to make a noise, to just yelling boo. So yeah, Fire Rojas also not polite to the manager,
No.
but at least there's something there.
Agreed. So essentially, what the players have started doing, this includes Javi Baez, Francisco Lindor, Kevin Pillar, um, is they are doing kind of a sarcastic thumbs down when they do something good on the field, because the whole idea is like, well, Mets fans are booing us, and so like we're gonna kind of give it right back to them and say like, oh well, you boo us when we don't do what you liked, so when we do what we like and what you want us to do, we're going to give you a thumbs down because we're booing you, basically, was like
Yeah,
the gist of it.
objectively
um
hilarious if you ask me. I thought it was straight up funny.
yes, I think it's very funny. I don't have a problem with it. But the Mets owner, who I really have a lot of problems with on a lot of levels, Steve Cohen, because he
Yeah.
doesn't seem to understand the distinction between owning a team and being a baseball fan on Twitter at all. And he also just seems like thirsty and needy in a
Yes.
way that's gross to me.
And fake as fuck. And I
Yeah.
mean, this is he tries to be one of the people. I think on Twitter at Away Game Spot, I compared it to like the boss who's like, "Hey, I'll come out to happy hour with you guys," but also doesn't pay
Yeah.
for anything, so he just makes it weird for everybody. And then just like everyone wanted to hang out without him. He's like, "Isn't it cool that
Right.
I'm like one of the guys, even though I own all of you?" That's this guy. And just FYI, Steve Cohen's his firm that helped make him all his billions of dollars, he had to plead guilty to a criminal indictment, pay a record 1.8 billion settlement. This guy's a criminal, like, also. So it's like he's not just some chill like baseball guy who's like, oh, he's so accessible to the fans. No, he is when he wants to be, but
Hmm.
but that's it. He sucks. Steve Cohen sucks.
Yeah. And so I don't think that Javi necessarily explained his position as well as he could have. I will
Mm-hmm.
say that, and that's where a lot of the consternation comes from, is based on a press conference that Javi gave a few days ago. But yesterday, the Mets had a doubleheader. It was like the end of a suspended game, and Javi was predictably booed,
Mm-hmm.
because Steve Cohen basically came out and was like, "This is unacceptable." Like, essentially, the gist of it was like, the fans have all the power, the players have no power. Don't do this to our poor beloved Mets fans and their
Yeah.
delicate little souls. And
Yes, exactly.
Javi Baez did exactly what Javi Baez does, which is he never stopped running. It was first and third, two outs. Conforto, who's been really struggling, hit a ball to left field. Javi from first base came sprinting around, ran through a stop sign that was probably a terrible stop sign, actually,
Right.
after the ball got away from, I think, Alfaro in left field, and then scored on a perfect slide. And that is Javi Baez. He's going to
Mm-hmm.
strike out a lot. He's going to swing at balls that are 10 feet in front of the plate, but he's also going to do things that almost no one else in baseball is capable of. And that is the deal that you have to make. So either be cool with it or don't. That's
Yeah.
kind of my feeling.
Oh yeah, and I think there's and it's not just Mets fans, but we've certainly had a lot of experience with Mets fans, and I think it's fair to say that I think it's heightened among Mets fans. There's a sort of a reaction that literally anything bad their team does, it's boo time,
Hmm.
and anything good, it should just be good, happening good all the time. They're fucking
Yep.
children. And it's a weird dichotomy because we both know some like extremely good, knowledgeable Mets fans, like
Hmm.
anecdotal, and it just makes sense that we would because where we live, we both live in Queens. But it's I would say it's overall like the downside, the worst of that fan base makes it one of the worst fan bases in baseball. Like it's a lot of the worst stuff I've ever seen happen at a baseball game were done by Mets fans. I've seen a Mets fan push a pregnant lady off the 7 Express as it was crowded right before the doors closed. I definitely, as a child, had drunk adults yelling "fuck you" to me in my face when I was 6. You know, you've had slurs thrown at you over there. These aren't like normal every baseball stadium things. So I'm saying Mets fans are, as a group, a piece of shit fan base, I would say. Like some great
Not
fans.
to say that there aren't piece of shit Cubs fans.
Of course, lots. Some follow us on Twitter, I'm sure.
But yeah, so that's kind of the Javy Baez saga. It seems to me that the odds of him signing in New York at this point are low. Also, he should be playing shortstop somewhere. So that's another element to it.
Yeah, he's playing second base because he's a good teammate and he's good friends with Francisco Lindor, who, by the way, Francisco Lindor, I felt like this since earlier in the year. I like Francisco Lindor, but I think he kind of gets away with a lot. Like, I think he gets credit personality wise in some ways that I don't know for a fact that he's earned. Earlier this year, Lindor had an incident with a teammate in the dugout. Everyone saw them go shouting into the dugout, and he wouldn't talk about what it was. He said he saw a rat, or whatever, and funny, great, I don't care, whatever. This time again, Lindor was not being real about what was happening, and the thing that got Javy into trouble was that Javy's just candid. When you ask him a question, he answers it, and everyone else was hiding and whatever. But I think like Lindor gets this, like, I don't know, this fun fan favorite sort of personality, and he is very fun to watch on the team, but I will say I feel like he's a little sus. There was like a Sports Illustrated article earlier this year too where the man just simply couldn't stop talking about how rich he was and all the money he was spending on like cars and stuff. And I mean, it's fun. If I was spending a bunch of new money on cars, I'm sure I'd talk about it too, but I guess I'm saying this just where I feel like Lindor's got away with this, and Kevin Pillar certainly got away with this. And I don't know why. I mean, Javy's new, I guess, and he's the one who sort of said it, but it's not like Javy told everyone we're booing, let's boo the fans. This was a team-wide thing that Javy has been scapegoated for.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing that I can say in defense of Mets fans, which is not really how I choose to start many sentences, is that Javy had a lot of goodwill built up in Chicago, rightfully so.
Yeah.
Because he was part of the team that made all of our dreams come true. And he also is someone who has brought us an immense amount of joy over the past 7 years. And he doesn't have that built up in New York. So I understand how it's a little different for us as Cubs fans and as Javy fans to look at Mets fans and be like, oh, how could they, not be appreciating Javy? They haven't really seen the Javy that we've seen. You know what I mean? So I do understand that.
Well, they have a history of not appreciating their own people too. And then somehow there's this national media narrative where it's like, oh, can people handle New York? Javy hasn't played in front of New York crowds. It's all it's a different kind of fandom over here. But like, it's a bigger fandom. Guys,
I believe Mad Dog Russo said like, oh, you're not playing in Chicago anymore where people don't care about baseball. Like, are you fucking dumb?
He is, well, yes, Mad Dog Russo is a fucking dumb human being.
But at least he's soft-spoken.
At least he's, really reasonable. Guys, do you think people are like standing outside the stadium watching the game at Citi Field? Because we can measure how many people are inside the stadium. And the Mets are 11th in attendance this year. The Cubs this year are 8th. It is a myth that playing at Citi Field is somehow, because it's New York, a bigger sporting stage than it is at Wrigley Field. I don't know what we're talking about. Literally, more people are there at Wrigley Field watching Javy. This contending Mets team that Javy got traded to, this is the fewest amount of fans Javy has ever consistently played in front of at home in his career. This is a downgrade in terms of scale of where he's playing. And so that that thing like Javi hasn't been around serious baseball's horse shit. And it is part of like this weird New York media narrative that like New York is so big and different.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck that. The Mets haven't won since 1986. They don't draw anywhere near commensurate with the New York market. Fuck all of that. It's garbage. It's fiction.
I did enjoy the fun factoid that because Javi's run and I guess RBI, I think he had an RBI in the game, was actually a suspended game from April 11th. Statistically, it went into the books as like a run scored on April 11th, both for the Cubs and the Mets,
Yep.
which is the first time since 1920 that has happened. I presume that would be a situation where someone's like traded in the middle of a doubleheader and then like played a game for the other team, because that kind of stuff happened in 1920. But
Yeah, there was definitely something. Yeah, I think he was. It was. I think Philadelphia was involved in that one, where it's like 2 hits on the same day for different teams, due to a
But I've
trade.
always
But
thought, yeah, I've always thought it'd be very interesting though, thinking of like Miggy just hitting his 500th, if a milestone hit or home run were hit in a suspended game, because that would technically mean that his 499th home run was his 500th,
yes,
and that home run goes back in time to be like his 480th.
yes, exactly. It's a weird sort of matrixy chain reaction that just shifts time and place, and that's what happened over there. So Javi, as we said, got the winning run in this game. There was a thumbs up given at some point there. That was pretty good. The SNY booth, by the way, as shitty as much of the Mets fan base is, the SNY booth, I thought did a really good job talking.
Gary Cohen is phenomenal.
Yeah, he's really good. I guess that's the Javi news, right? I think that more or less covers it.
Yeah, and I have kind of stopped doing the very feverish, like I'm checking in on my former Cubs pals every day.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know how I feel like Rizzo has fallen off big time? Obviously, he missed some time due to COVID.
Right.
KB, I feel like has been fun, is like pretty good.
Yeah.
Do we know how our former Cubbies are doing?
Yeah, Chris Bryant has been he's been very good in San Francisco. He's still slugging over 500 on the year. His average is right there at 270. You know, he's with the Giants, his numbers are with the Giants, he's hitting a little better. He's hitting 281 for in 89 at bats. He's got 14 runs scored, 25 hits, 13 RBI. Yeah, he's doing well.
Nice.
Yeah. So I mean, out of all these guys looking at it, I think one thing, as you say, about Javi not, feeling unlikely that he would be in the conversation for the Mets. Of our 3 old friends, it feels like Javi might be the most likely to come back to Chicago. I think, whether that's on a short-term prove-it deal, like a 1-year thing, or 1 or 2-year deal, and then try to go back into the market when it isn't all the shortstops at once. Trevor Story is going to be a free agent next year, but it won't be as many shortstops. So I think that's a possibility, or come back and sign a long-term deal here. Again, not counting on it, but the Cubs do not have a quality starting major league shortstop anywhere near the major leagues. So
no. Now if you were given that option, would you rather sign Story than Javy?
Would I rather sign Story than Javy? It's tough because it just depends on what else the money's being used for. Because if you're signing Javy, I think that's great, and I think that saves you $100 million too. So I mean,
you're not getting Story on a 1-year prove-it deal.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, I think the real question is, like, in terms of the money being allocated there, do I want Trevor Story or do I want Javy Baez and Nick Castellanos or something close to that, And the answer for me is that. I think Javy, I sentimentally want to see him back. I think it makes a lot of sense to have a quality major league shortstop there. I don't believe that I want to see Nico Horner playing at shortstop every day. I think it just makes a lot of sense to have Javy back and to spend some money there, but spend a lot of money elsewhere, as opposed to doing like a Carlos Correa $300 million deal or a Trevor Story 200 plus. I just think it's going to cost a lot less to get Javy, and you can load up this team more because you need a lot of major league starters on this team, and you got to pay for them.
Right, and it does also kind of fall in line more with what we think the Cubs will do, which is like a lot of stopgap signings.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think it probably objectively doesn't make sense to sign someone like Story to a huge deal, knowing that realistically you're not going to contend for a few years anyway. So,
well, and I think they
I
should
think,
contend, but they have not
right,
proven that they will. So,
right.
yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's
So,
all I got. You got anything?
no, that's all I got for this week. You know, some City Field talk, some new Cubs talk, talking about our friend Ethan Roberts, who's going to join us later this week for an interview right here on this podcast feed. So thanks for listening, everybody. Remember, go get your own Manscaped and use the promo code Away Games. That'll get you 20% off, get you free shipping, and it'll help us keep this show going too. If you like what you're listening to, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Away Games Pod, and we will catch you in a few days.